Sons of Ultramar, why do you always get the fancy new toys? I'm extremely jealous of all you because you really do get all the fancy toys. Not the rest of the Space Marine chapters, not my beloved Sons of Sanguinius, not the Space Wolves. Well, actually, you know what? I have to correct that. The Space Wolves actually got unique characters quicker than you did, so ha! No, I'm really kidding. But regardless, predominantly the Ultramarines always get the new characters as well as toys or whatever you want to call it in the Space Marine lineup. And I understand that. They are definitely the poster boys of Games Workshop, and we will stop talking about it and move on from there. Welcome back, my brick family. This is Sprues and Studs, and today we are going to be reviewing and unboxing the Heroes of the Chapter that was newly released by JoyToy not too very long ago. So we will compare this one with the one that was released in the Intercessor Squad and see what happens. Now, the upcoming two units have never actually been released, and the second unit is of a Primaris Lieutenant, and this one has never been released before either. So this is a pretty cool character with the power sword and the bolt pistol. I'm excited to see what else is inside of it so we can review it with you. And then finally, the one that I am actually most excited about is going to be your Primaris Company Ancient right here. The reason why I'm really excited about this is because, well, guess what? He's got the chapter standard, which is pretty much a rallying point for all Space Marines when they're on the battlefield. And this is one of the most important centerpieces of the game for the army to rally around. So this is exactly why I'm very excited to get into this guy. So without further ado, let's jump right in.
All right, folks, it is now time to bust open the Veteran Sergeant and see what is inside, what armaments he has, and how he looks. Okay, the first thing that we will take a look at is the Astartes Chainsword. Let's see if there are any interesting things that we can find on this chainsword. So apparently there is some highlights on the side over here. They are a lot better than the Blood Angels Intercessor ones. I am actually looking at this right now. It looks like there's some gunmetal bleed onto the blade of the chainsword. However, this is actually a lot more detailed than the Blood Angels chainsword, because the Blood Angels one, this part is completely black, and this is obviously a gunmetal color. And I actually like the gunmetal color quite a lot better. There's more definition than just leaving this completely black. Looks like there's some uneven brushing, but it doesn't really bother me that much. Overall, this is a pretty good chainsword. Let's take a look at the bolt pistol. So the bolt pistol also has a bunch of kind of dry brushing with this gunmetal color. You can see there's a little bit of highlighting as well. It seems to be slightly messy, but again, I'd rather have the highlights on any of these guns just because it just makes these things pop out a lot better. Now, let's take a look at the bolt rifle and see what is going on with it. So this is the first time I've seen a scope on one of these guns. Let's take a look at the scope itself. So again, there are highlights up here. There's highlights all around up here as well. So it's good that JoyToy decided to highlight it. I dig it. Even though they are slightly messy, it doesn't bother me that much. I'd rather the highlights be there than really not. There are also some mold lines that we're taking a look at all along the gun, and it seems like every single one of the models actually has that. There is some bleed with the ribbon white onto the maroon of the purity seal, and then you also have the uneven dry brushing too. So I suppose this is going to mimic something like of a worn bolt rifle. So it's a very good touch. I like this. Then moving on to the holstered bolt pistol, you get to see these highlights over here. There are some light highlighting going on as well. The handle of this pistol is worn, as you would expect. and apparently you will be needing to push this peg into the Space Marine's belt somewhere. So let's put this off to the side and take a look at the Space Marine himself. All right, here is the Veteran Sergeant. I kind of wish that the Veteran Sergeant had a bare head. I really like it when JoyToy adds that extra special touch. That's when you know that the character is unique, because you always see these characters on the battlefield without their helmets, but it gives them more character. So this one unfortunately does not come with an extra bare head. I wish it did. So let's look at the coloring on the lenses. The lenses actually look quite dull. I thought that I saw on the Blood Angels Intercessors that the lenses had more of like a clear coat, so it was a little bit more glossy looking. This is a very flat kind of green, but at least what I can say is the green of the lenses actually stay on the lenses, and there's really no bleed. There are some bleed going on with the red of the helmet going on to the, I guess, the brass color of the skull. Not too big of a deal, especially when you look afar like this. So looking at the pauldron area, there is extensive shading, as you can see. With every single one of the JoyToy models, they do have pretty extensive shading. This one does not have any sort of highlighting whatsoever along with the armor plates like the earlier models did. And then you also see the Veteran Sergeant pauldron over here with the insignia. There also is some bleed going again with the brass color or copper color going onto the blue area of the pauldron. Looking at the chest area, there is obviously shading going on with the eye sockets of the skull, but there isn't any more kind of highlights or shades that's going on with this chest piece over here. And then there are, as usual, highlights over here between the armor plating. And so let's take a look at the back and see what's going on. You have the empty holster. You can pop this right off and then put the holstered one over here using this little nubbin mechanism here. Pop right in, and voila, you have a holstered pistol. And let's move on to the Lieutenant. And here we have the Lieutenant for your viewing pleasure, everybody. So let's take a look at the Mastercrafted Power Sword. So right off the bat, I can tell you that this Mastercrafted Power Sword looks absolutely better than the one that was given with the Blade Guards. The Blade Guard one had some unfortunate color issues, in my opinion, because this dark gunmetal color was just way too dark for my taste. And then it really obscured the power nodes over here, so you couldn't see the very bright turquoise look that you see right here. This actually very, very well mimics how you would paint a power sword on a miniature. So kudos to JoyToy for getting this straight. Then let's look at the rest of the sword itself. It's got a nice little gem in the center of the hilt. And then the grips and the pommel look pretty cool. So this is definitely a big improvement over the Blade Guard Ultramarine Power Sword. The bolt pistol, again, has some rough white highlights that are on the edges of the black. You have a very brushed look as usual. Let's take a look at the bullets in the clip. Looks like there are no bleed issues over here. There are also no bleed issues on the other side. I think you're able to push this in. Yes. I'm not going to push it all the way in because it's very hard to get out. And moving on to the holstered bolt pistol, the highlights are a little bit rough here too. As you can see, it's not very crisp. It kind of like weaves back and forth, and this is kind of rough where the leather is higher in some areas than others. Not a big deal. And it looks like we're able to push this particular piece in to somewhere over down here on the Lieutenant. Finally, we will take a look at the Lieutenant. As you can see here, this, I guess, iconography or whatever you want to call it, it's attached by the same peg joint over here, so you can kind of spin this around. Let's take a look at the helmet here. So there's a gloss finish, as you can tell, and the helmet looks like it has been through a little bit of wear because you get to see some dirt over here on this off-white area. There's some dirt also, again, over here. And let's take a look at the skull area itself. There's nothing too special about it. There's no shading in the eye sockets. take a look at the lens here. There is a little bit of bleed from the red onto the blue with this lens, and a little bit over here, but not too big of a deal. Unfortunate, there is no highlights on the blues of the Ultramarine. I wish there were, because I really like it when they highlight it. It makes things pop out. This is obviously the Lieutenant Pauldron that they get to wear. And then you have the holster is not that well highlighted compared to the Veteran Sergeant's holster, but I'm sure you could probably swap these things in and out. So this is the Veteran Sergeant's empty holster, and you can see the difference between the both of them. This is actually highlighted a little bit more. All right, let's kit this guy out and get him ready for battle. The first thing that we need to do is attach the backpack to the back of the Space Marine, which goes in through these two holes, these two pegs. Very easy to do. Voila, fits in very quickly. And the next thing that you need to do is to outfit his master crafted power sword into his hand. So as I highlighted before, the hand is of a very soft and pliable material, similar to the ones that they use in the Gravis Captain cape as well as the Librarian's cape. So you can fit this very easily inside, and there you go. You have the lieutenant gripping his power sword so he can fell the enemies of the Emperor. And then the next thing that you will need to do is to outfit the lieutenant with his bolt pistol. And same thing again, this is of a very soft, pliable material. Well, looks like I can't get it in perfectly because I will need to change out the hand. So the hand is very easy to change out. All you need to do is just pop it off. There's a ball and socket mechanism over here. Not really a mechanism, but there's a ball and socket joint. So this would be the correct hand in which to wield the bolt pistol. However, this hole is a little bit too small for this ball joint over here. I'm not gonna, for the purpose of this video, dunk this under hot water and wait for it to expand, but that is a lot of things that people have suggested to me in the video. Thank you for suggesting it, by the way. I have done this myself, and it does work. So thank you for letting me know. But for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to do it, but you technically should be able to fit this ball joint into the socket right here. All right, so there you have it. Very awkwardly positioned lieutenant, but you got the picture. He's wielding his weapons, ready to go to war. Now let's move on to the one that I've been waiting for the most to review, which is the Primaris Company Ancient. All right, here you go. We have the Company Ancient, the one that I wanted to take a look at, especially the standard. That standard looks absolutely phenomenal to me. But unfortunately, our Company Ancient was too excited and got his head popped off due to all the excitement, but we'll get to that in a second. This Company Ancient comes with your regular bolt rifle, pistol, Startease chainsword, holstered bolt pistol, and of course the meat and potatoes right here. So the standard itself is made of the same material that you find in the cape of the Gravis Captain as well as the Librarian. It's a very soft and pliable material, as it should be, because that's how standards are supposed to be. They're supposed to be free-flowing and waving in the wind. And you can see the ton of Ultramarines iconography over here. You have the symbol over here, and you have the, I guess this is the Aquila kind of, or the Ultramarines version of the Aquila. Looking at the Aquila, there is shading that you can tell that goes on between the feathers. However, that shading is a bit uneven up top over here, which is a little bit of a disappointment to me, because this is definitely a huge showpiece in any kind of action figure collection that you would want to see. And then moving here, you do see some bleed with the copper onto the blue. And moving on over here, you do see some interesting highlighting here with the leaves of the garland. It's nice that there's highlighting, but you can tell the highlighting is a bit uneven. It looks like the machine got a little bit too excited and bled in over here, bled into other places. It looks like this thing's supposed to be green. However, it's been dusted with this pretty heavy coat of yellow The yellow technically should only be on the tips and the blades of the leaves. And then looking at the Ultramarines part, I do like how this is heavily shaded and the light areas are, well, of a lighter color. It's nice how they were able to mimic almost the folds of the banner and how it's supposed to look. It looks like the shading up top here is not that great as well. But hey, at least they did shade it. So cool standard, I really like it. Let's take a look at this poor headless company ancient. One of the biggest things I'm actually gonna say to you is that, good Lord, this guy's helmet is so grungy. I mean, I understand that these guys have been through a lot of battles, don't get me wrong, but this is very, very grungy and very, very dark compared to what I would want and be used to. I would think I would want the shading to be closer to the crevices here. It looks like the shading has gone all over the place on this helmet. This is actually pretty disappointing to me. It looks just too dirty in my opinion. They should have lightened up the area of the helmet. And if you look here closely, there are also painting issues where you have the black going a little bit too far into the red pops out from the white area. So you have, it's a little bit disappointing on this one. I'm not too keen on just the condition and the look of this helmet. And if you look on the pauldron itself, there's still that bleed that you find from the copper area onto the blue. It seems like a very common thing. The left pauldron too has some issues here with, I guess, painting as well. Kind of a disappointment that the model that I wanted to review the most is probably the worst looking out of all three of them. And there we have it. The Primaris Company Ancient has been reviewed. So let me put all these guys together for your viewing pleasure. All right, everybody, and we have all three of the heroes of the chapter combined together for your viewing pleasure and full glory. What do I think about this? Well, first of all, I think the Veteran Sergeant looks pretty good. Everything looks pretty cool about him. And then you have the newly released Lieutenant that hasn't been released before. I actually do like this Lieutenant quite a lot, but there are some issues with the painting here and the helmet, but nothing to really bother me too much about. I am a big fan of the Power Sword. It is definitely miles better than the Ultramarines Blade Guard Power Sword. Unfortunately, the model that I'm actually disappointed in the most is actually with the one that I wanted to review the most, which is kind of ironic, and obviously that is the Primaris Company Ancient. The banner itself looks pretty badass. Obviously there's some painting issues up here. That doesn't really bother me. This actually is cool looking that I'm going to definitely be displaying in my glass cabinet. But with the helmet itself, I think this is it's so dirty looking, and it's just a big detractor of the whole entire figure itself. And the only other thing that I would comment on is these are unique characters. In Warhammer 40k, these characters are supposed to be supplied with a bare head. You usually see, librarians or captains without their helmets, and I believe that these models definitely should have come with a separate head because they are, well, character models. So that's a little bit of a disappointment to me. So this is Brews and Studs. I hope you enjoyed this review. Let me know in the comment section what you feel about this, whether it's going to be worth it, your money or not, to buy this set. And as usual, I will see you all in the next one.